Grace Harrison, never imagined that at 62 years old, I would experience a morning like this. February in Boston was colder than usual. Outside the window, snow that had fallen all night had painted the quiet residential area pure white. Normally, I would wake up at 7 o'clock to my alarm clock, but on this day, at 6 a.m., I was awakened by the shrill sound of the doorbell. My goodness, who could it be at this hour? I wondered, putting on a robe over my nightgown as I made my way downstairs. Could it be the paperboy making a mistake? Or perhaps an urgent message? Various possibilities ran through my mind as I headed towards the front door. The moment I opened the door, I froze at the sight before me. Amy. There stood my 8-year-old granddaughter, Amy. She was shivering in her thin pajamas. Her lips were pale, her cheeks flushed, and her eyes filled with tears. Grandma. Amy's voice trembled. I instinctively embraced Amy and brought her inside. Her body was ice cold, clearly showing symptoms of hypothermia. Tom. Come down here quickly. I called to my husband sleeping upstairs. Tom, a former pediatrician, is used to such emergencies. He came running down the stairs immediately. What's going on? Tom immediately began treating Amy as soon as he grasped the situation. Bring some blankets, Grace. And some warm drinks too. I laid Amy down on the living room sofa and moved as instructed. As I lit the fireplace and prepared hot chocolate in the kitchen, my mind was full of questions. Why was Amy here so early in the morning, and all alone? Did Michael and Sarah know about this? When I returned with the warm drink, Amy was wrapped in blankets by Tom and seemed a bit calmer. But her eyes still held deep sadness. Amy, are you all right? Why did you come so early this morning? I gently asked. Amy hesitated for a moment, then said in a shaky voice, Grandma, please. Make me your child. At those words, my heart nearly stopped. What happened? Why would she say such a thing? Amy, what about Dad and Mom? I asked nervously. Large tears welled up in Amy's eyes. Dad and Mom, they said my sister is pretty so she's family, but I'm ugly so they're leaving me behind. At that moment, I heard something break inside me. Anger and sadness washed over me. But right now, Amy crying in front of me is the priority. It's okay, Amy. Grandma and Grandpa are here for you. I gently embraced Amy. No matter what happens, we'll protect you. Amy continued to cry in my arms. I exchanged a silent understanding with Tom. Things might get tough from here on out. But we'll do anything for Amy. I believe that's our duty as grandparents, and as human beings. Outside, the snow continued to fall silently. We had no way of knowing yet that this unexpected morning event would greatly change our family's life. Seeing that Amy had calmed down a bit, I began to gently ask for details. Tom was preparing hot oatmeal in the kitchen, occasionally glancing at us with worried eyes. Amy, take your time, okay? What happened? I asked gently. Amy took a deep breath and began speaking in a trembling voice. Last night, Dad and Mom suddenly started packing. They said they were starting a new life overseas. My heart began to race. Michael and Sarah going overseas without saying anything. And leaving Amy behind. Eva was packing her things, but they told me you're a nuisance, so we're leaving you behind. Tears welled up in Amy's eyes again. Suppressing my anger, I continued to listen calmly. So what did you do? I woke up in the middle of the night, packed a few things in my backpack, and came here, Amy answered in a small voice. I glanced at Amy's backpack. Peeking out from it was the old teddy bear I had given her for Christmas 2 years ago. That bear, which we called Mr. Cuddles, was Amy's precious friend. You brought Mr. Cuddles with you too, I smiled gently. Amy nodded silently, hugging the teddy bear tightly. I stood up and picked up my cell phone. I dialed Michael's number, but only got the message, "This phone number is currently not in use." Sarah's number was the same. Tom, Michael, and Sarah's numbers aren't working, I told my husband. Tom frowned and said, "We might need to contact the police." Hearing those words, something became clear in my mind. My 20 years of experience as a social worker was needed now more than ever. Amy, you know, Grandma used to work as a social worker, I spoke to my granddaughter. My job was to help children who were in trouble. Amy looked at me with interest. So, I promise I'll protect you no matter what. Amy's expression softened a bit at my words. However, I knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. I exchanged a silent understanding with Tom. We were determined to do everything we could for Amy. After breakfast, we let Amy rest in the guest room, and Tom and I sprang into action. First, we called the local Child Protective Services. Even though it was Sunday, I knew they had a 24-hour emergency line. Massachusetts Child Protective Services, how may I assist you? A woman on the phone responded. I calmly explained the situation. My 8-year-old granddaughter came to our house alone this morning. It seems her parents have moved overseas and left her behind. The CPS worker asked detailed questions and gave us instructions on how to proceed. We'll conduct a home visit within 72 hours. Until then, please ensure your granddaughter's safety. Next, we contacted Jennifer Morrison, a lawyer we've known for years. Despite it being Sunday, she was happy to consult with us. Grace, I recommend starting the process for special adoption, Jennifer said. Unlike regular adoption, this completely severs the legal relationship with the birth parents. Tom and I looked at each other and nodded. Please proceed, Jennifer. Jennifer continued, your years of contribution to the foster care program will likely make this process smoother. The court should look favorably on your case. I had supported the local foster care program for 20 years. It's volunteer work that involves temporarily taking in children from difficult home environments and providing them with a safe and loving environment. It was deeply moving to think that this experience would now help protect Amy. Thank you, Jennifer. Please proceed with the paperwork as quickly as possible. After hanging up, we decided to contact the police. We dialed the non-emergency line of the Boston Police Department and explained the situation. "It's good that the child's safety is secured," the officer said. "We'll formally file a report on your son and daughter-in-law's disappearance and child abandonment. Could you come to the police station tomorrow for a detailed interview?" We agreed and scheduled to visit the police station tomorrow morning. After finishing the series of phone calls, Tom and I sat on the living room sofa and let out deep sighs. "Grace, are you okay?" Tom held my hand. I smiled weakly. "Yes, somehow. But I can't believe Michael and Sarah would do something like this." Tom nodded quietly. "All we can do is protect and love Amy. Let's focus on that." Just then, we heard a faint sound from upstairs. It seemed Amy had woken up. "I'll go," I stood up. "I need to talk to Amy about what's going to happen next." As I climbed the stairs, I took a deep breath. I needed to explain the situation to Amy as clearly as possible, but also honestly. And above all, I needed to convey that we love her unconditionally and will never abandon her. Before knocking on the door, I quietly prayed. "God, please give us strength. The strength to protect Amy and make her happy." Then, I gently knocked on the door. "Amy, are you awake? It's Grandma." A new chapter of our lives was about to begin right here. Several weeks had passed since the CPS visit and our report to the police, and Amy's new life was slowly taking shape. We decided to transfer her to the local Maple Grove Elementary School. On her first day of transfer, Amy had an anxious expression on her face. "It's okay, Amy," I placed my hand on her shoulder. "I've explained the situation to the teachers. If you have any problems, tell them right away, okay?" Amy nodded slightly and walked through the school gates. As I watched her retreating figure, I felt a tightness in my chest. That afternoon, Amy came home with a slightly brighter expression. "I made friends with a girl named Jessica," she reported. "It was a small step, but a significant progress." The following week, my old friend Martha came to visit. She's a retired music teacher, but still enjoys giving piano lessons. "Amy, would you like to try playing the piano?" Martha gently asked. Amy hesitated a bit but approached the piano with curiosity. When Martha taught her a simple tune, Amy picked it up surprisingly quickly. "Grace, this child has talent," Martha said with sparkling eyes. From then on, Amy began practicing the piano every day. We could see that music was healing her emotional wounds. One Saturday, we went shopping as a family at Whole Foods. Amy was looking at various vegetables in the produce section with interest. "Grandma, what's this?" She pointed at a cauliflower. "That's cauliflower. You can put it in salads or roast it. I want to try making it." Amy's eyes sparkled. We bought cauliflower and other ingredients and decided to cook together at home. While cooking with Amy in the kitchen, I noticed that she was slowly regaining her smile. During dinner, Amy proudly offered everyone the roasted cauliflower she had made. Tom exaggeratedly praised it as Chef Amy's masterpiece, and Amy laughed happily. In this everyday life, we were finding a new form of family. As Amy's smiles increased, Tom and I's worries gradually eased. However, we hadn't forgotten that there were still unresolved issues. As peaceful days continued, an unexpected phone call came. The caller identified himself as FBI. "Mrs. Harrison, do you have a moment?" The man on the phone began speaking in a calm voice. "We have important information regarding your daughter, Sarah Harrison." My heart started racing. "Yes, what is it?" "We have discovered that Sarah Harrison was involved in a large-scale investment fraud, a so-called Ponzi scheme. She is currently wanted internationally." I was speechless with shock. Sarah involved in fraud. Also, your son Michael Harrison is strongly suspected of being an accomplice. We believe both of them have likely fled to Mexico. Tom sat next to me and held my hand. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. "I understand. Is there any other information?" The FBI investigator continued, "Yes. Regarding Eva Johnson, the 12-year-old girl, we found out that she is the child of Sarah Harrison's previous marriage. In other words, she's Michael Harrison's stepdaughter." Tom and I exchanged surprised looks at this information. Eva was Sarah's child from a previous marriage. Suddenly, one of the reasons why Amy had been discriminated against became clear. After hanging up the phone, we were enveloped in a long silence. "Tom, I can't believe it," I finally spoke. "Michael and Sarah, doing something like this?" Tom nodded quietly. "Both Amy and Eva are victims. I'm worried about Eva too. She must be confused as well." We looked at each other and exchanged a silent understanding. "Let's contact the lawyer," Tom said. "We need to petition for Eva's protection too." I nodded. Yes, we can't separate the two sisters. That night, after Amy went to bed, we talked for a long time. How to tell Amy the truth, how to find Eva, and above all, how to protect and love these two children in this complex situation. The next morning, I got up early and made coffee. Outside the window, the light of a new day was beginning to shine. The road ahead will certainly not be smooth. But with family bonds and love, we can overcome any difficulty. Believing this, I prepared to face a new day. About 2 months after the contact from the FBI, surprising news reached us. Michael and Sarah had been found in Cancun, Mexico. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, they have been arrested on an international warrant and are currently in the process of being forcibly repatriated, an FBI agent informed us over the phone. Relief and complex emotions filled my chest. As a parent, it's truly painful to have your child arrested as a criminal. However, at the same time, anger welled up when I thought about how they had abandoned Amy. There was more good news. Eva had also been protected in Mexico and was set to return safely to the United States. Eva is now being protected in a child protection facility. She's also receiving psychological care, a social worker explained to us. On the day of the trial, we headed to the courthouse with tense expressions. Michael and Sarah sat in the defendant's seat, looking exhausted. The prosecution harshly pursued their charges. The defendants defrauded hundreds of victims of over $10 million in total, and furthermore, committed the inhumane act of abandoning their own child. Despite the defense's futile arguments, the judge handed down a severe sentence. I sentenced the defendant Michael Harrison and the defendant Sarah Harrison each to 15 years of imprisonment. As the courtroom erupted into commotion, I just quietly closed my eyes. I thought, it's over now. After the verdict, we filed for custody of Amy and Eva. The court, appreciating our years of foster care experience and stable environment, swiftly granted us custody. That night, we participated in a support group held at the local YMCA. There, grandparents who were struggling to raise their grandchildren just like us had gathered. Prompted by the moderator, I stood up and began to share our experience. At first, it was really tough. Healing our grandchildren's emotional wounds, dealing with legal issues, and above all, facing the crimes committed by our own child. The participants nodded quietly at my words. But don't give up. With love, you can overcome any difficulty. The children need us. When I finished speaking, warm applause erupted from the venue. Several participants thanked me with tears in their eyes. On the way home, Tom held my hand. "Grace, you're amazing. You've encouraged so many people." I smiled and answered, "It's all thanks to what we've experienced." It was painful, but it was meaningful. When we got home, Amy was waiting for us at the entrance. "Welcome back," she said, hugging us. At that moment, I felt that all our hardships had been rewarded. Hope and expectation for the new family life about to begin filled my heart. On the day it was decided that Eva would come to our house, Amy was restless from the morning. "Is Eva coming?" Amy asked repeatedly, to which I gently answered, "Yes, she'll be here soon." "Aren't you excited?" When the doorbell rang, Amy ran to answer it. When the door opened, there stood Eva, accompanied by a social worker. The sisters stared at each other for a moment. Then suddenly, Amy threw herself at Eva. "Eva!" Amy cried, hugging Eva with tears in her eyes. Eva, also teary-eyed, hugged her sister back tightly. "I'm sorry, Amy. I won't leave you again." Seeing this scene, Tom and I couldn't help but get misty-eyed as well. A few weeks later, we went on a family trip to Disneyland. Amy and Eva held hands, running around excitedly from one attraction to another. "Grandma, look! It's Mickey!" Amy shouted excitedly. "Let's take a picture," Eva suggested, and the four of us took a commemorative photo with Mickey. That night, watching Amy and Eva sleeping soundly in the hotel, Tom whispered to me, "Grace, our new life has begun." I nodded and answered, "Yes, it's a wonderful life." After returning home, Amy became even more dedicated to her piano practice. And a few months later, she won first place in a local music competition. At the awards ceremony, Amy ran to us with a radiant smile. "I did it. Grandma, Grandpa, Eva." We shared in her joy and held a celebration party at our favorite restaurant. Time passed, and Thanksgiving Day arrived. Our house was filled with many relatives, and a lively dinner party was held. Gathered around the table, each person expressed words of gratitude. When it was Amy's turn, she said in a firm voice, "I'm thankful for my new family. Grandma, Grandpa, and Eva. I love you all." Eva followed, saying, "I feel the same. Thank you for teaching me the true meaning of family." Finally, I stood up. "We are deeply grateful for this wonderful family we've been blessed with. We've had difficult experiences, but we've overcome them to reach where we are today. Let's continue to love and support each other." Everyone raised their glasses and shouted, "Cheers." Outside the window, snow had begun to fall quietly. Enveloped in the bonds of our new family, I'm certain our happy days will continue from here on. With that belief and a deep sense of gratitude, I closed my eyes.